This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, episode number 150. After 150 episodes, here are the 10 things I want every woman to know about nutrition, fitness, and mindset. This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, where you'll learn how to build both a strong body and a strong mind by eating, moving, and thinking. I'm your host, physician, personal trainer, certified health coach, and certified life coach, Carrie Holland. Hey, how are you? What's new? What's good? So, what's good here? We are celebrating a little milestone today. This is episode number 150. So, that means we have been hanging out every week for about 150 weeks now. And whether you've been with me from the very beginning, when I first launched this podcast as Strong as a Working Mom, or if you're new to the show, thank you for being here. I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you sharing the show too. And one of the best things is when I meet with a new client and she tells me a friend or even her doctor recommended the show, and that's how we got connected. So all of this is to say thank you for hanging with me for 150 episodes, and I will keep showing up for you and bringing you content week to week. So today, to mark 150 episodes in, I wanted to take just a tiny step back and reflect on what I've learned from writing 150 episodes and coaching now hundreds of women about eating, moving, and thinking. I want to share what I've learned, what keeps coming up, and what I wish I could bottle up and send to every woman I coach, every woman who listens to this podcast, and really every woman who is trying to change her life. So today, I am counting down 10 truths I wish every woman knew. These are the lessons that come up again and again in coaching sessions, in conversations, and even in my own life. And these are the truths that if you really dove in and practiced believing them to be true for you, I think it would change everything. All right, so let's go. So first, I want to acknowledge something right from the start. I get asked questions like this all the time. What is the best way to eat to lose weight? What is the best macro split to build muscle? What are the best exercises to build my booty? How much and how often should I exercise? There are many more similar to these. And these are the questions that show up in my emails, pop into my DMs on social media, and show up repeatedly in many of the groups I'm in. And I understand, I get it. It's really easy to get caught up in trying to find the right way to eat, the right way to exercise, or to build muscle, or to lose weight. I see it all the time with my clients, and I've been there myself. We want a clear answer, and we want a guarantee. And we also want to know that if we just do it right and follow the rules, we'll get the results that we're looking for. But the truth is, and what I really want you to hear, is that there is no one right way to do any of this. I don't care what anyone says. I follow and listen to a lot of different people in the health, fitness, wellness, and weight loss space. These are smart, educated, well-versed people. These are people with lots of letters after their names. And if you follow them and listen to them or read their books or listen to their podcasts, they sound legit, and they are. But half the time, these experts are contradicting each other. And why is that? So you may even find something that I say here contradicts something you hear somewhere else. And why is that? Well, so here's what I know. I do not know everything. No one can. But I do know that science is constantly evolving and changing. So let me say that again, loud and clear. Science is constantly changing. And so what we think we know to be true today is likely something that is going to be complete garbage tomorrow. So think about high fat, low fat, eggs or no eggs, fasting or routine eating schedule. And there are so many other examples of this. And the truth here is that there is disagreement among experts on pretty much everything related to fitness, nutrition, and wellness. One week, something is hailed as the best thing ever, and the next week is being questioned and debunked, and it's totally confusing. And with the amount of literature and books that are coming out, it can be totally mind-boggling. And please know too that in science, there is most definitely something, it's called cherry picking. So that means picking the evidence that best supports the point that you want to make while avoiding the evidence that disproves it. So whenever you hear someone or read a book or listen to a podcast that swears this is the one and only way to do something because science says it so, you have to be cautious and ask yourself, what other evidence is there that's not being mentioned here? And admittedly, this can get messy, but I want you to understand why it might be that you see so much conflicting information in the health and fitness world. So if you are feeling confused, it's not because you're doing it wrong. It's because this space is noisy. There is a constant flood of conflicting information, new studies, bold headlines, viral fitness trends, self-proclaimed influencers who pose as experts, and shifting advice. It can feel overwhelming and contradictory, and it's easy to start second-guessing yourself. So instead of getting caught up in finding the right way to eat or move, I would encourage you to focus instead on finding the plan that you will actually do. Do not get so caught up in finding perfect because that doesn't exist. There is no perfect diet, perfect workout, perfect macro split, or perfect morning routine. There really is no one size fits all. Instead, and I will keep saying this for as long as I need to, please work on finding what fits into your life, your preferences, and your schedule, because that is what's going to last. Don't try to squeeze yourself into an intermittent fasting window if that just does not work for you. Don't try to force yourself to do HIIT training twice a week if it makes you feel terrible. Find what works for you, find what you can stick with for the long haul, and know that there is, nor will there ever be, one right way to approach your nutrition or fitness. So next, please do not overcomplicate your habits. Simple works. And more importantly, simple sticks. And despite this, simple often gets overlooked or even looked down upon because it doesn't feel exciting. It doesn't make for a flashy headline, and it doesn't make for a viral social media trend. So we live in a world that loves the big reveal, the next essential life hack, and the breakthrough diet that promises to fix all your problems in 30 days or less. We are drawn to the dramatic transformation stories and the complicated methods because they feel more impressive. These fads and fixes, they excite the part of your brain that wants fast, drastic results. But here's the reality. The stuff that actually changes your life, it is boring, it's basic, and it is very unsexy. You change your life by doing the small, simple things over and over again until it becomes autopilot, until it becomes part of who you are. So I shared it last week when I talked about building systems. I shared my systems that set me up for success. And it was nothing wild. Batch cooking turkey burgers on Sundays, getting up at 4:40 in the morning to exercise, eating the same foods regularly, getting a workout in, even if it's not perfect. And despite me sharing this and coaching on this and reiterating it over and over and over again, sometimes you try to make it complicated. So I had a client who had a different way of eating for every day of the week. She would fast some days, she would have 3 meals and 2 snacks other days, she would have 2 meals a day on still some other days. And as you can guess, it didn't work. I had another client who worked full-time and had 3 kids busy with school and activities, and then she created a binder full of fancy dinner recipes. And she would choose 5 recipes for the week and buy all the ingredients for those recipes. And after a few weeks of throwing away unused, icky, moldy, yucky produce, she realized that her system was too complicated. So please know that it's the small, unglamorous, most simple decisions repeated daily that are actually going to change your life. And what's ironic here is that often, even establishing those uncomplicated, simple things can be a challenge because it all boils down to habit change. And what I mean by this is that I will work with a client and I'll suggest something simple, like eating the same thing or the same few things for breakfast every day. And she'll find that she struggles with that. But then instead of working on that, and instead of finding ways to make that simpler, like meal prep or getting things ready the night before, she will make it even more complicated by choosing 5 different breakfasts to rotate every day. Or she'll come up with a plan that requires extra time in her morning to prepare the food when she's already racing to get out the door on time in the first place. So here's your important takeaway. When the seemingly simple habits are hard to establish, it's not because the systems are too hard, and it's not because the systems don't work. And the answer is not to abandon ship because you didn't get a 100% the first week you tried it. The answer is not to make your habits even more complicated. Instead, the answer is to keep trying and refining ways to make your systems simple and repeatable so you can actually stick with them. It's not making your food plan look like a complicated calculus problem. You keep it simple. And then you work on managing all the brain stuff and all the resistance that naturally comes up when you try to change your habits. So keep it simple and do not overcomplicate your habits. The next thing I want every woman to know is that knowing and understanding are not the same thing as doing. So remember that information alone does not change your life. Action does. And as a huge nerd and as someone who loves to read and seek out self-help books and lifestyle books and listen to all of them, I get it. I have gotten trapped by this. It is so tempting to believe that if we just learn enough, read enough, listen to enough podcasts, or follow the right expert, then we'll be ready. That somehow, if we acquire enough knowledge or really acquire the right knowledge, that will make change automatic and less hard. But it never works that way. Knowing what to do is the first step. Learning is most definitely the starting point. But the transformation and real change does not happen until you take that knowledge and do something with it. You have to put it into practice. So you can know everything there is to know about nutrition, fitness, and mindset, but if you don't actually apply it, if you don't do it, it does not matter. Information that does nothing more than sit in your brain, no matter how accurate or how insightful, that doesn't change your habits. It doesn't change your physique or your weight, and it certainly doesn't change your life. So it's taking action. Even if it's messy, imperfect action, that creates your results. And so for my perfectionists listening, this can be a real stumbling block because often you use needing more information as a way of putting off the real work of taking action. You'll tell me you need more time to think through how you're going to start a morning routine, and meanwhile, nothing changes. Or you tell me I need to think through how I'm going to meal plan, only to let weeks go by with nothing executed. Or you may be doing it on a much bigger scale, like if you want to change your career, but you keep putting it off under the guise of needing to do more research before you send a networking email, submit a cover letter or your CV, or reach out to your contacts. And meanwhile, nothing changes. So let me make it clear. Knowledge is great. It is a foundation, and you certainly need to do your homework before you put any sort of health, fitness, or other life plan in place. But application is even better. Action is what moves the needle because when you take action, you get a result. If you try meal prep and you run out of food by Thursday, then you get information and you know you need to buy and make more food next week. If you try a class at your gym at 5 a.m. and you hate it, then you've got information and you know to either look for another class or find a different type of workout to do. But if you do nothing, then you don't get a result. So it's only through doing, through trying, failing, adjusting, and trying again that you actually build the life you want. All right? The next thing I want you to know is that true wellness means feeling good in both your mind and your body. I do not believe that you can have true wellness without both. So I'm going to be very honest here. It is not enough to just look healthy or fit. Chasing a certain body type or a certain size might seem like the ultimate goal because that's what so much of our culture celebrates. But I want to shout it out from the rooftops that real wellness is so much deeper than your appearance and the size in your waistband. If you are constantly exhausted, anxious, or unhappy on the inside, then it really does not matter what the scale says or how toned your arms are. And that's because true wellness includes your mental and emotional health. So I can think of one client who constantly talked about a picture that she had of herself when she was at Disney World years ago. And she loved how she looked in that picture because she had lost all kinds of weight and she was wearing a super cute pair of shorts and she loved how she looked in them. And so I just asked her flat out how she felt at the time she had that picture taken. And her answer, one word, miserable. It's so interesting. I had another client who also referred to a picture of herself in a killer dress that she wore on stage when she was singing with her band. And she loved how she looked in that dress. And same thing, when I asked her how she felt, she said it was awful. She said she was tired, hungry, barely hanging on to the habits, but at least she was thin. And I have many, many other examples of this, and they all underlie the same idea. Being fit does not matter if you feel like trash on the inside. I have experienced this myself. You can be the strongest, most lean, most toned person in the room, but if you're not taking care of your mental health, then you do not have wellness and it will not last. Your sense of peace, your self-talk, your relationship with yourself, those are the things that matter more than your physical strength or endurance and what you look like in your pants. In fact, they often impact your physical health more than you realize. So how you feel on the inside, that matters just as much, if not more, than how you look on the outside. Having a truly healthy and fit life means you can trust yourself and actually feel at home in your mind and your body. You do not have to choose one or the other because you deserve both. And that is why I talk about self-compassion all the time here. If you want to look good in the dress and feel good on the inside, you have to do the work of self-compassion. You cannot skip over this. You cannot beat yourself up until you finally fit in the outfit, because then all you're left with is a picture of you looking fabulous, but feeling terrible on the inside. And I want more for you than that. All right. So the next thing I want every woman to know is that change is most definitely a process. Change, it is not a one-time decision where it's one and done. And that change starts with how you think. Most of us are used to running on autopilot. We move through our days repeating the same habits, making the same choices, reacting the same way, often without even realizing it. And while autopilot is economical and saves you loads of energy in certain parts of your day, like getting yourself showered and ready or driving to work, autopilot can also backfire and keep you stuck. Autopilot keeps you doing what you've always done, even if what you've always done is not working anymore. So, if you really want to change your life, you've got to interrupt your autopilot mode. You have to think differently. You have to catch yourself in the moment, notice your habit or pattern, and consciously choose a different thought, a different perspective, and a different action. So remember the connection here. Different thinking leads to different action, and different action leads to different results. And so what that means is that in order to change your habits, you have to take something that you normally don't think very hard about, like going to the pantry after dinner for handfuls of chocolate, and now you've got to think hard about it. You have to take something that is tucked away into your basal ganglia, the part of your brain that stores habit, and pull it up into your prefrontal brain and really think about it. And I'll be really honest, this is often the hardest part of habit change. And it's not a failing on your part. It's biology at work. Your brain likes autopilot and it likes habit, no matter what the habit is. Your brain likes the ease of not having to think so hard. But if you're going to change your habits, here's what you need to know. The more you call on your brain, slow down the moment, and practice thinking about what you're actually doing, the more you can unwind your habits. Because yes, action is most definitely important. But if that action isn't backed by new thinking, it's just another version of doing the same old thing. Really think about that. If you're just going through the motions and trying to strong arm yourself out of walking to the pantry for a cookie, but you're not practicing thinking differently, the end result will be no change, and you'll be back in that pantry nightly after dinner in no time. And you can't skirt this. You cannot skip it. Real change happens when you think differently on purpose. Real change happens when you step out of autopilot and into real awareness, when you choose to respond instead of react. And no, you will not nail it on the first try. It will not be perfect. And that is not a problem at all, okay? That's the process. So expect mess ups, expect to adjust. And at the end of it, keep going, keep thinking. The next thing I want you to know is that you are not broken. And very specifically, what I mean by this is that your past does not define your future. So this was a very, very hard lesson for me personally to learn. So I really want to shout this one out from the rooftops for all to hear. I've talked about what it was like growing up in my family many, many times on this podcast. And the one-line summary I took from my upbringing was, I come from broken, so therefore I am broken. And it has taken me years and a lot of work to overcome that. And to be fully transparent, I am still working on this and probably will be for the rest of my life. And I accept that, and I'm okay with that because I know what it feels like to live as if I'm broken and I'm not going back there. It can be really easy to look at your struggles, your setbacks, or your history and use those as evidence that something is wrong with you. You might think that because you failed before, you'll fail again. Or you might think that because you struggle, you're broken. No, none of that is true. Whatever you've been through, whatever mistakes you've made, or however long that you've struggled, please hear me. None of it means you're broken. You are not a project that requires fixing. You're a human who has lived and learned and kept going. And it doesn't make you broken. It actually makes you strong. So please know that you are whole, you are capable, and you are worthy of change. And you can choose to let your past define you, or you can choose to let your past shape you into someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Your lived experience can be the foundation that you build on instead of the trap that holds you back. And I fully acknowledge that this is hard to do. If you have lived much of your adult life letting your past define your present, it can be very, very hard to let this go. But I want to reassure you, not just because I read it in a self-help book, because I walked my talk and I did this work, that it has the capacity to change your life. You will feel lighter when you realize that you are not broken. Every challenge you have faced has given you strength and wisdom that you might not even be aware of yet if you're still stuck seeing yourself as broken. But when you are willing to let that go and shed that identity, your world will open up. I have experienced this myself, and I truly, truly believe this to my core. Another thing I want you to know is that you can accept yourself and still want to change. And that is because self-acceptance and self-improvement are not opposites. They are not mutually exclusive. You can love yourself and still want more for yourself at the same time. Two things can be true here. So you do not have to choose between appreciating where you are and striving for where you want to go. You can do both. And this is where the power of both and thinking applies. You can honor and acknowledge everything you've been through and still aim for more. You can be proud of your progress and still have goals you're working on. And something I want to make super clear, making space for both acceptance and ambition at the same time, it is not a contradiction. Sometimes we think it's one or the other, but making room for self-acceptance and self-improvement, that is your foundation for real change. It's recognizing that you are worthy here and now as you are, but that you're also capable of growing, expanding, and evolving into your next best version. It's a process. I don't want to be stagnant. I want to keep growing until I am no longer here on this earth, but I'm going to do it from a place of acceptance instead of in the past when I did it from a place of self-hatred. I have said it many, many times, and I'll say it again here. You can't beat yourself up into better. I've tried, my clients have tried, and I promise you that it just does not work. Being hard on yourself might help you get an A+ on the test, and it might help you climb the ladder at work. But when we're talking about your life and your well-being, push harder and beating yourself up is not going to cut it. Remember what BJ Fogg said in Tiny Habits, you change best when you feel good. And so what does that mean? It means that when you treat yourself kindly with compassion, encouragement, and respect, instead of talking down to yourself, you're more likely to keep showing up for yourself. And here's something else to consider. Growth fueled by self-criticism, it is fragile. That kind of growth is sitting on very shaky ground. And it often stems from the belief that you're not good enough as you are. So when you're motivated by criticism, whether that's your own or someone else's, every setback you encounter is going to feel like confirmation of your worst fears about yourself. And it makes you more likely to give up when things get hard because the underlying message is that you're inherently flawed. But on the other hand, growth fueled by self-respect, that is unstoppable. When you respect yourself, your motivation comes from a place of worthiness. You believe you're capable of change because you deserve good things, not because you have to fix yourself. There's a big difference here, and it's going to feel different. It's going to feel different when you approach change from a place of liking yourself instead of trying to beat yourself up into better. So please really hear that. Changing yourself from a place of self-kindness is going to feel so much better because that's what change from a place of self-respect can do. Self-respect helps you stay resilient and keep showing up, even in the hard moments. Self-respect and self-acceptance build lasting change from a foundation of belief and trust in yourself. And you don't get that by being mean to yourself, especially when you mess up. Next. So this one is a hard truth, but I think it is so important. I'm just going to spell it out. So the next thing I want every woman to know is that no one is coming to save you. Now, I know that may sound harsh, but in fact, you are your own best resource and you are your own best rescuer. And that is a really good thing. It is so tempting to wait for the right time, the right circumstances, or the right relationship to swoop in and fix things for us. You might think that once you find the right coach, the right partner, the right job, the right program, the right diet, the right schedule, that everything will click into place. But the truth is, thinking that way keeps you stuck. It is most definitely a trap. One of my very first coaches said it, and I want to share it here. Don't leave your job, your spouse, your home, or your life as you know it until you have done your work and are happy with yourself first. And at first, I balked at that. But now I get it. I can see it. I can see where I tried to change my circumstances without doing my work. And it did not make me any happier. It did not change my mindset. I can see how I tried to wreck myself, getting fit as stink, thinking that if I did that things would be better in my life and in my marriage. I can see how I thought quitting my doctor job would suddenly make everything better, but it didn't. I can see how I thought having a business coach would suddenly mean a sustainable, thriving business, and I was totally wrong. And what all of these examples illustrated for me in my own life was the various ways I was trying to avoid taking responsibility. Looking back on it now, I can see it very clearly. I was trying to avoid doing the real work. I was trying to avoid discomfort and make change easy on myself by looking for something external to save me, but in fact, I was just making it harder. So when you wait for an external rescue, you give away your power. You put your future in someone or something else's hands and convince yourself that your happiness and your success are out of your control. And that is the worst place to be. And this is what slipping into victim mode looks like and feels like. It's believing that life is happening to you instead of life happening for you. But it's not. Life is not happening to you. You are creating it with your actions or your inactions. but I get it. It can feel so much easier in the moment to convince yourself that someone else needs to change, that your circumstances need to change, or that the right situation needs to appear in order for things to be better. But that is wishful thinking. And honestly, it is the most disempowering place to be, because the real truth is you are not waiting on someone else. You are waiting on yourself. You are the one in control here. When you recognize that no one is coming to hand you the life you want, you reclaim your authority. You realize that you are not powerless and that you're actually very powerful. And change starts when you stop waiting and start moving. And that first move always has to come from you. No one else can do it for you. You have the power. You have the control. You have the agency. And when you stop waiting and start choosing to be in charge of your own life, that is when everything changes. And you will realize that you've always had what it takes and you just had to claim it. Next, something else I want you to know is that you are always in control of how you respond. I absolutely love this, and I knew I needed to put this in here. In fact, I have one client who during our entire time together so far has kept coming back to this. This one idea, this one sentence really has changed the way she sees herself, her career, her relationships, and her life as a whole. She says it all the time. I choose how I respond. I love it. It's simple, it's empowering, and it's the absolute truth. No matter what the circumstance, you own your choice. Ownership means recognizing that your actions are yours, no matter what triggered them. So that means if you skipped the gym when you planned to go, that is yours to own. If you ate the cookie when you said you were going to skip it, also yours to own. And this is not at all about beating yourself up or making yourself feel bad. Instead, it's about acknowledging that you made the choice, whether consciously or unconsciously, and that you have the power to choose differently next time. Owning your choices is not about blaming yourself. In fact, it's quite the opposite, because it's about empowering yourself and realizing that you and only you have the power to direct your life. When you take ownership, you take back your freedom. You stop waiting for circumstances to change and start making the changes you want to see. You might not be able to control what happens to you, and often we can't, but you always control how you respond to it, always. And that is a power that so many people underestimate. Ownership is one of the most freeing and empowering practices that you can develop. It takes you out of victim mode and puts you into emotional adulthood. Ownership puts you in the driver's seat no matter what happens to you. And when you take full ownership over yourself, you are no longer at the mercy of your circumstances. You're no longer living at the effect of your life. You're in charge of your life. And that really does change everything. And I want to make an important distinction here between fault and responsibility. There are things in your life that might not be your fault. People behave badly, and hard things happen that you never asked for. I fully acknowledge that. Hardships, setbacks, unfairness, they are real, and recognizing that does not mean that you're weak or that you're making excuses. But even if it's not your fault, it is still your responsibility, and you get to decide what to do next. Because responsibility is not about blame, it's about agency. It's about recognizing that even when hard things happen, you still have the power to choose how you respond. Responsibility means you get to decide how your story continues and how it unfolds. It means you refuse to let external circumstances dictate your internal strength. And taking responsibility is not saying this was okay. Instead, it's saying I get to decide what happens from here. And that is a big difference. Ownership takes you into a new level of freedom. When you fully own your life, your thoughts, and your actions, nothing holds you back without your permission. And this is huge. And the last thing I want every woman to know is that identity is not who you think you should be. It's who you choose to be. So I love to talk about identity, and I don't think I could share 10 things I want every woman, or really every person, to know without talking about identity. So here it is. You get to write the story of who you are. You are not trapped by your past, your job title, your body size, your upbringing, or your circumstances. Those things, yes, they are important. They have shaped you, influenced you, and impacted your journey. The things that have happened to you are part of your story, but they are not the whole story. They do not get the final say unless you let them. It's easy to get trapped into believing that where you've been or what you've experienced sets the limits for where you can go. I used to think that because I came from a miserable home that I couldn't expect anything more. I used to think that because I was a doctor, that was all I could be for the rest of my life. But now I know differently. External factors, like where you came from and what your profession is, those external factors can only define you if you let them. Your past may explain where you are today, but it does not determine where you go from here. You always have the ability to evolve, grow, and choose a new and different direction, and you get to decide what comes next. So please remember that identity is a choice. It is not fixed. It's not something you're handed at birth and are stuck with for forever. You can wake up any day and decide to think differently, act differently, and show up differently. You are never locked into an old version of yourself unless you choose to be. So every day you have the opportunity to act in alignment with the person you want to become. You are not chained to old habits, old stories, or old patterns unless you decide to be. So remember that change does not require permission. It requires a decision to show up differently, even when it's uncomfortable, a decision to believe that something else might be possible, even if the past tries to convince you otherwise. You are not bound by who you used to be. You are free to choose who you become next, starting right now. So there it is, 150 episodes later, and these are the truths that have risen to the top. This is what I want everyone to know. And if you take nothing else away from this episode, let it be this. You are not powerless. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are capable of creating a life and an identity that you are proud of. I've done it. I'm still doing it. And I will keep showing up here every week to help you do it too. And if you're ready to do that work, let's go. If you're ready to stop spinning, stop waiting, and start owning your life, coaching with me can help. When you coach with me, we don't just set goals. We get under the surface and find the stories, beliefs, and habits that are keeping you stuck, and then we change them from the inside out. Check out my website, send me a message at www.carriehollandmd.com/contact, and let's talk about what is possible when you stop waiting and start choosing. Thank you again for hanging out with me. Cheers to the next 150 episodes, and I'll catch you again next week. Hey, if you want to build muscle but don't know where to start, I've got you covered. Head over to carriehollandmd.com/buildstrength and download my free guide to help you maximize your strength training. Inside, you'll find the essential exercises for building muscle, plus simple 1, 2, and 3-day workout plans that you can follow with just dumbbells and a bench. You'll also find strength training tips to help you train smarter and see real results. My goal is to help you get strong, and this strength training guide will help you do it. Go to carriehollandmd.com/buildstrength and check it out. Thank you for listening to the Strong is a Mindset podcast. If you want to learn more about how to build both a strong mind and a strong body by eating, moving, and most importantly, thinking, check out carriehollandmd.com.